Good evening, good evening. Another great Sunday for Magic the Gathering. Hello, everyone. My name is Javi. This is Sunday Night Magic. Thank you for joining me this evening. It is 9 p.m. as scheduled, and pretty much we're going to have an interesting day today. The topic for today is going to be another top 10 list, and this one was interesting because I didn't really have this as my original topic for today's episode, but ever since I've been able to play Magic in person again, I've gotten a chance to play with a lot of different players and different play styles and some commander brews that I never saw coming. I was initially, the topic I had prepared for today was, of course, commander related as always. But what I decided to do was kind of shift what I wanted to talk about based on what I experienced in the last few days of playing. So, what we're going to be talking about today is my top 10 creature removal spells for commander. So, some caveats here. Again, this is creature removal. So, there will be some cards that I'm going to show you that might apply to other permanents in Magic, and this again is specifically for Commander. And I am not including abilities of creatures and artifacts. These are strictly spells that remove creatures from the game. How they remove creatures is what is going to be discussed. So I'm going to do my best to go through the list and also monitor the comments. So, hey, here we go. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you guys enjoy the episode. And yes, thank you for supporting Cardcore. For those of you that are not aware, I am also currently selling Magic singles on Facebook. If you'd like to be added to our group chat for Magic singles in Cardcore, please let me know. Maybe message me directly instead of using the comments here. But you know what? Comments and feedback are always welcome. So let's get started. As I mentioned, top 10 creature removal. It was really hard to rank this in order. So instead, I'm going to show you 10 of my favorite creature removal spells for Commander. But let's take the order of it out. Like, I'm not going to say that this is top 10 in like consecutive order, because I feel that these can be adjusted depending on your color, your play style, and your flexibility of how you strategize and deck build. So instead, take these as 10 recommendations for creature removal to be added into your commander deck. So let's begin. The very first one is actually a tie between two cards, primarily because they are the exact same card. And these are Rapid Hybridization and Pongify. I think I pronounced that right. So basically, these two spells are exactly the same, but they just have separate names, which means that you could have both spells in your 99 cards for your commander deck. They both destroy any creature. So this is going to be a common theme from all of the cards that will be discussed today. I really don't like playing color-specific removal, with the exception of maybe Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, but that's not really creature removal. So, hey, thank you for joining us, Keo. Thank you. All right, so let me get back to this really quick. It destroys any creature. So, regardless of size, as long as it is not indestructible, it's busted. And it cannot be regenerated. So, well, no one really uses regeneration abilities these days, but some commander cards still do have it built into their abilities. And then it's replaced with either a 3/3 frog lizard creature or a 3/3 ape. The replacement effect, if you're using this with a weaker creature, or if you don't have blockers, might kind of work against you. That you might not be prepared for a 3/3, but in the game of Commander, you have 40 life. So that 3/3 isn't really much of a threat. But taking something important out for your opponent and destroying it, essentially, is a really great removal spell. And this is efficient at 1 blue. And unfortunately, though, blue is really not known for its removal spells. They primarily would counter a spell from entering the game or send it back to its owner's hand. So the bottom of the list is really gonna be blue this time around. I know in previous episodes, like for Planeswalkers and some of my other opinions, I really lean more towards blue cards, but removal is not their specialty. And as a blue player, that is something that all blue players have come to accept. We have to go around removal. So the next card is also blue and is known as Reality Shift. This is a little better than the previous because it exiles creatures. Exile means that it is removed from the game. So with the cost of one more on top of one blue, you can essentially remove anything from the game, any creature from the game, regardless of size, as long as it doesn't maybe have protection like Hexproof or Shroud. So even if it's indestructible, it's gone. And its controller will take the top card of his deck and put it into the game as a 2/2 creature. Now, 2/2 is less of a threat than the 3/3 earliers. The only problem is that, well, it's a 50-50 situation. If the card that got taken from the top of their library is a creature, they can eventually flip it face up. If it's not, you could have also potentially taken a card from their library that they may have wanted to draw and use, and you've totally denied them a card. So there is that up factor. You time this right when someone does something desperate, like they tutor for a card and put it on the top of their library, suddenly you turn it into a 2/2 creature. And pretty much until that creature dies, that card's not going to the graveyard, or if it doesn't get bounced to its owner's hand, you've denied them a card, you've removed the creature from the game. So it's two upsides to it, with the very rare chance of the card that got manifested being a creature. That's 99 cards. I really doubt that you'll land a creature unless you are playing against an opponent that is really creature centric. And so that's why this made it into the list. It's a great removal spell, and for blue players, you should be boarding this into your decks. It's great. So let's move on. Next one is another tie. And this is primarily because the cards, again, do the exact same thing. So this is going to be number 8. But again, I'm not really ranking because while I do want to have these in order, the way that they play into your playstyle is always something that you can adjust for. So number 8 is going to be Beast Within and Generous Gift. Basically, these destroy any permanent. So creatures, artifacts, lands, doesn't matter. So its flexibility for making it 3 to cast is great. You can take out any permanent, and then you give the controller of that permanent a 3/3 beast or a 3/3 elephant. So you can play one in green, or you can play in white. You pretty much have a destroy effect that can hit any permanent. Again, you give them something in exchange. So that's what makes it that's the weakness of it, that you give them essentially a 3/3. You could have taken out a land and now suddenly they have an attacker, but Commander's 40 life. The impact of a 3/3 may be very, very minimal, that you barely even feel it. It might even die instantaneously. And remember, tokens, if they're ever sent back to its owner's hand, you can't keep tokens. They are removed from the game. So it's very fragile as well. So this is number 8 for Beast Within and Generous Gift. Permanent removal, always great to have in your library. If you are playing green or white, not consider, run these cards. So we move to number 7. This one is a favorite for other formats, and I see its strength, and it does have another card that on this list that has a very similar effect, and people should be running it. This is Path to Exile. Path to Exile exiles any creature. It just flat out removes a creature from the game. It is 1 white to cast, and it is an instant. As you've noticed, every card that I've gone through on this list so far has been an instant. If you have sorcery speed removal, that is a waste of a slot in your 99. You should not be running that. Please do not run sorcery removal unless it is like mass removal to wipe out the table. Single target removal should be at instant speed to make it the most efficient version of itself possible. So this removes any creature from the game, and its controller gets to search their library for a basic land and puts it into the game tapped. So they don't even get to use the land. Now, what if you are playing a high powered deck, or your opponent is playing a high powered deck, and they don't even have a single basic land? Then that entire second half of the ability doesn't benefit them at all, except maybe giving them a free shuffle. Now, what if they already arranged the top of their deck in a particular order? Then, you know what? This just totally screws up their plans. Um, it says may, so it is optional for them not to if they'd like, if to just negate the entire ability. But that is also outright admitting that they don't have a single basic land in their library. So that's another tell sign that you could technically abuse if you understood, or if you read between the lines of your opponent's response and how they deal with this. Um, that could definitely sort of adjust or influence the way that you play moving forward. For one white, great removal. Giving them a land does kind of help them accelerate faster than you, but on the right circumstances, they may not even be able to use the ability at all. That's number 7, Path to Exile. Now, taking the same concept and moving it into a different color, we are going to be looking at Assassin's Trophy. This is number 6. Assassin's Trophy does the exact same thing, that it does affect a single permanent, and its controller gets to look for a basic land. But there are a little bit of changes here. First off, the colors are black and green. So it's not a white, it costs 2. Okay. But now it can target any permanent an opponent controls. That's you really don't tend to want to destroy your own permanents, but the upside here of getting to look for a basic land, you could find yourself desperate in a situation that you'd like to get a basic land, but of course you cannot use this spell because you can only target permanents your opponents control. It's still better because it takes out any permanent. Now, its controller gets to search your library for a basic land and puts it into the battlefield, not tapped, so they can use the land. It is slightly, I would say, maybe not the better version of that effect, but destroy target permanent means that not only creature, it can take out any permanent type, a planeswalker, a land, a artifact, an enchantment. So the flexibility is better than Path to Exile, even though, the replacement effect of giving them a land, and it's also not an exile spell. I still tend to lean more towards this, but white is really the best at creature removal. This is, I would say, a better version because of the flexibility. So, consider this if you are playing colors or playing a commander deck that runs black and green. Number 6, Assassin's Trophy. Next one is a personal favorite. I consider this a little bit of a sneaky card that not many people run in their decks, but they should. If you play black, and if you have a very low CMC commander, you should be playing Deadly Relic. Deadly Relic, if you control your commander, you may cast this spell without paying its cost. It is a free spell, and it exiles any target creature. So, okay, let's say you don't have your commander. You're running your overcost 10 to cast 5 color commander. Fine. At 3 colorless and a black, it still also is pretty good. You can play around any color combination here because it just needs a single black to run. It removes any creature. A very big problem with black's removal spells is usually destroy target non-black creature, or it is destroy and then you have to pay an amount of life. But primarily, a lot of the things with black has always been non-black creature, and it's usually destroy. Black doesn't have a lot of exile effects. So even looking at the previous cards we did a while ago, Assassin's Trophy does have black, but it doesn't exile. This is pretty much what the other spells that we looked at for creatures is, but just in black and can technically be for free if you're running a cheap commander. There's one massive example of this, which would probably be the partner pairings, because most of the partner commanders that you would run, so you get two colors or even three, or you can even really push it to four. Like I play four color partners. You can get like two or three to cast commanders in and run Deadly Rollick and remove something as quick as turn one, really. So a free spell is always great. Should be on your list if you're running black. Deadly Rollick. Number 5. Now, taking again black and splashing in a little bit of green. Next is Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay again is not exile. It is a destroy effect, which means that you don't permanently get rid of something, but the fact that this is just 2 to cast and cannot be countered by spells or abilities means that it is going to go through like 90% of the time, with the only exception being redirection spells or effects, or maybe blinking out the target. I don't know. I mean, I've seen this with rarely, but it can destroy any non-land permanent that costs 3 or less. That's pretty good, efficient removal that almost cannot be countered at all. This is a mainstay in so many decks because some pretty powerful cards that have come out in Magic through the years have been 3 cost or less. There are commanders that are even like 0 to cast, like Rograk, and it's a perfect target for that. Hey, a comment. Thank you. Hey, Ron. Thank you for joining us. Yes, versatile removal. The flexibility of a lot of these, that I know that today's episode is about creature removal, but just having the option to target something else that, if there are no creatures in play, you don't feel like it's a dead card. Okay, but again, in the game of Commander, there's always that one creature that's sitting outside of the game. So you always will have a use for that creature removal spell. There are a few planeswalkers that can be played as your commander, but majority of the time, your opponents, as well as you, have a creature, a legendary creature, that is sitting on the command zone and is always an open target the moment it enters the battlefield. So these are exceptional spells to run in any of your decks, as long as you're running the right colors here. So we've gone through blue, we've gone through some green, white. There is one black that we did, and okay, black green. So let's do another multicolor. This one is a personal favorite. Just like Deadly Rollick, that it's a hidden gem that no one really runs. This is actually a very famous card. It's been reprinted several times and has a lot of alternate versions. My favorite being like the Secret Lair Party Hard Shred Harder version. So we're looking at Anguish Unmaking. Anguish Unmaking is black-white. So now that you've changed green with white, green is also usually just the destroy effect. White is great at exiling. So this is the best of both worlds. It is black, white, and a colorless. It is still instant speed, and it exiles any non-land permanent. You lose 3 life, okay. It's like getting hit by a 3/3 creature that you gave your opponent, and you're running 40 life. What is 3 really in the grand scheme of things? It's really barely a scratch. There are cards in Magic that you will probably run in your deck that might even deal more damage to you than this. But just paying 3, a black, a white, and a colorless, you take any non-land permanent out. It's great. I run this in every deck that I have that uses these colors. If it is allowable, I will put it in because it comes out of nowhere, can take just about anything out, and the cost, you don't give your opponent anything. You just pay a little bit of life, and they pretty much can never get that back. It is exiled. It is removed from game. And so that's why this made it to number 3. Again, not really ranking, but this is like one of my top three favorite removals. Okay, so we're a little bit ahead of time here for number 10. So for those of you that are watching, maybe in the comments, share some of your favorite creature removal spells. I would love to hear what you have that you run in your commander decks. Also, before we move into the last two cards here, if you have suggestions for topics that you would like to be covered in the next episodes of Sunday Night Magic, I would greatly appreciate your feedback and contribution to the comments below. So let's move to number 2. The next spell here is Chaos Warp. Chaos Warp was a commander staple that you could only originally get in a commander deck. It has been reprinted several times already. It is a perfect commander staple. And this is probably the best red removal that you can find. Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast are really strictly for blue spells, so its flexibility is not there. There are other red removals like direct damage for creatures, but sometimes, creatures can get around that. They can survive the damage or even get regenerated or evade it somehow. Now, Chaos Warp can be evaded too, but the owner of whatever permanent you target, which means even a land, an artifact, enchantment, so it goes even beyond creature removal, they get that card and they shuffle it back into their deck of 99. What are the chances of them drawing it again? It's essentially gone. So it's just about as good as removing something from the game. Even if you target a commander, they're going to send it back to their command zone. That still adds on the 2 colorless tax. So you do get it out of the game. You do get what you want. Now, it's a bit of a gamble because your opponent shuffles that card into their library and then they will reveal the top card. If it's a permanent, it gets added into the game. So there's a gamble because unless you are totally familiar with what's in your opponent's deck, they might get some massive creature out for free or a land or something that they can't even play. And all of a sudden, you just got a 3 to cast removal and no drawback whatsoever. So there is a gamble effect to it, and that is very typical for red spells. It's usually risk and reward. So black tends to lean more towards like pain, that you have to pay the cost to get the effect, while red will give you the effect, but at the same time, you just don't know what might happen next. So out of all of those effects, Chaos Warp definitely deserves to be in any deck that has red in it. It is probably the best red removal spell that you can find. And a comment, Swords to Plowshare. Yes, you know what? It's a great removal spell. So much so that it is my number 1. So good job on the prediction, chum. This here is my number 1 pick for creature removal in Magic. It is one of the OGs in a sense that I think I'm going to say 4th ed. It's had so many versions of it. It's been demoted down to an uncommon. And you know what? It's perfect for what you need in creature removal. It's cheap. It's 1 white. And it's an instant. So everything that we covered today have been instants because they come out of nowhere, which makes them more efficient than any other removal spells that are out there. Again, don't run sorcery removal unless it is a mass board wipe. You should not be wasting your time with those cards. This here removes any creature, even your own if you're desperate. But why would you want to target your own creature? Because the creature's controller gains life equal to the power. There might be circumstances that you want to remove your own just to pick up some life, but that's rare. Instead, 1 white, take anything out of the game, its owner gains a few life. Again, we're playing with 40 life in Commander. Giving them 5 life, 4 life, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. You just paid 1 white and took something out of the game permanently. Comment. Yes, top 10 spells to deal with Hull Breacher instead of banning it. How very true. How very true. Yes, so for those of you that may not be aware, a recent card from the Commander Legend set known as the Hull Breacher was recently banned from Commander. There is a justification that was, of course, provided by the Commander Rules Committee, and oh hey, you know, speaking of sorcery, Innocent Blood, good pick because for one black, everyone sacrifices a creature. That's actually a very good example of a black removal spell, but it doesn't have the ability to target, so your opponent can bypass it by giving up some cheap little creature, while you also might end up in a bind with having only one creature in play and you're going to have to give it up. So it kind of, it's a good removal spell, but it runs parity that everyone is affected. While the spells that we are using today or featuring in this list break parity in a way that I spend a card, you lose something, it's removed from the game, and the trade-off there is really just one-sided. That you lose a resource, I just spent a card. So the way that I look at it, instants will always be the best removal spells. So just taking a step back to Marco's comment, actually adding in here also, yes, RIP Hull Breacher. From someone that does have two Hull Breachers that they're going to have to go into the ban vault that I keep here. Yeah, it's painful. But you know what? This list here could have been 10 perfect answers to the Hull Breacher. I covered all 5 colors, so there are options for everyone, really. I guess, you know, it's not for me to say what goes behind their decision to ban, but yeah, it wasn't. It was a sad day for Commander. Okay, going back to Ron, not unless you don't have a creature. Fair enough. Again, that is circumstantial. That, you know, in the right conditions, that could work. Now there is also the I'm going to say collateral damage to that when you're playing Commander. You are 4 players. You play Innocent Blood because you want someone to lose that one creature that they have. 2 other players might get affected and turn their crosshairs on you because of that spell. I'm not saying Innocent Blood is bad. It's just that spot single target removal really shows your intent to remove one target. Now, if you're going to affect multiple players, you better be ready for the blowback because that's now 3 players attacking you. So it's a little bit different in Commander strategy. So here, actually, yeah, coming up with playing Commander without a creature. Well, your commander is 1 creature, unless you're like playing 99 spells. I have built that before, totally creatureless. It can happen, but those are very rare cases. All politics. Yes, Commander is really a game of politics. That's why whenever you do something that affects more than 1 player, you really better be able to justify what you just did to the table. So, you know, maybe for a future episode, I can talk about board wipes that just destroy everything in the battlefield. And those really come with a lot of salt and hate from a table. So, okay. Thank you. That's some great comments. You know, I'm going to go back to the top here and just say that these are my personal 10 favorite creature removal spells. I tried my best to rank them, and these are my recommendations for your 99. If you have a commander deck that, and your table has also some very high-powered commanders that a lot of it happens in instant speed interaction, you really should consider also instant speed removal. You can break combos, you can totally destroy synergy, you can stop like a game ending move, and even politic yourself into like, you know, I'll keep you, you want some life, I'll give you life, I'll remove your creature from the game and give you life, and you know, you actually got something out of it. You remove something from the game, you gave the guy life, and all of a sudden he owes you a favor. That could happen, or that allow me to play a creature, and I'll be able let me put my commander in the game, and I'll remove his creature for free for zero, and you run something like Deadly Rollick. I don't know. There's just a lot of things that you can pull off with removal spells, but primarily its main goal, of course, is to remove a threat from the table. Along with choosing good removal spells, you should always take into consider threat assessment. Hence, discussions like the Hull Breacher, that it became the boogeyman, that it was part of every deck that ran blue with the intention of just denying all players draw. You could answer that pretty quickly using the 10 spells I recommended today. A lot of creatures have been added into Magic the Gatherings. I'm going to say close to 30,000 or maybe 40,000 already at this point. Library of cards, and there will always be something in there that is a perfect counter to them. So just be aware of the meta or the most highly played creatures and adjust accordingly and run instant removal. So thank you to everyone that joined today. Thank you so much for the feedback. So next Sunday, we'll have another topic to discuss. Maybe I'll give board wipes a shot. Or you know what? Please leave some more comments. Let me know what you want covered. I'm still working on getting live gameplay added into our show. I just recently had a Zoom match with some friends that we recorded. And if I can get around to editing that by next Sunday, who knows? Although that's not that likely now, but we'll see how that goes. We just hit the 30-minute mark, and I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me this evening. This has been another great Sunday night, spending time with you all, talking about my favorite game ever, Magic the Gathering Commander, EDH, whatever you want to call it. This has been Sunday Night Magic. My name's Javi. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Keep gaming, guys.